Today it is, I can tell you, is the most awaited session for this month on behalf of Anurag and all our 13 offices, including Mr. Rohit Shah, who's based out of London, who's watching you live. I'm delighted and welcome you to be here this afternoon. You are certainly a celebrity speaker.
You are also a celebrity speaker.
Harish heads the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm going to ask him a little later, what does that equity really mean? I thought it was a mistake. It needed to be equality, and Harish is going to explain that a little bit later. And he heads that division for the Axis Bank. I was going through Harish's bio, and it was pretty interesting bio. I only took some snippets of this, but I just wanted to let Harish know that whilst Mumbai office is listening through physically, we have 100+ sites who are logged in at this point in time, and you will be heard across the board from various sites and various people. And this is a subject that we've been driving through within this month on DNI. We had a very interesting session last week with someone who had a personal disability, and how he overcame that disability, and he works very efficiently with Amazon. We also took an inclusion pledge. All of us took an inclusion pledge on the 4th of October, and it was very fascinating. We submitted an inclusion pledge in writing, and all that has been filed. We had a very interesting video of various guys, going through that. Just a little bit about. I know that there are a lot of questions that I have, a lot of questions that the other audience have, but I just want to tell a little bit about Harish. It is his first corporate job, so which itself is a big thing. It'll be quite interesting to understand from Harish how do we like the corporate culture. That's what it is. Second is that he is a world acclaimed activist who fights for equal rights. He promotes the rights of LGBTQ community, for children, for women, for animals. And somewhere I read is that, and he says is that he prefers animals over humans, and then survivors of child abuse. He's also rated amongst the top 100 most influential LGBT activists globally, not India. Globally. A big round of applause to Harish. He does describe himself as gender fluid and is happy to be addressed as he or she. In a short time with the Axis Bank, he has made a huge amount of path-breaking work. Excited to hear, some of the themes that he has brought in Axis Bank. So welcome, Harish, and thanks for taking out the time.
My pleasure.
Harish, my first question is that why DE&I? So what is equity? I thought equity was like the bank equity, Axis Bank equity.
Yeah. Now diversity, diversity is what we know as the variety that exists in the world. Inclusion is the variety coming together, right? And equity is a factor which basically understands that the opportunity and access is not there for everyone to be included. Like for instance, if there are 3 people coming to work, and Anuj, you just put in a rule saying that everyone has to be at work by 10 o'clock. Now the first person happens to be an able-bodied woman. Second happens to be a woman who's on a wheelchair. The third happens to be a woman who is heavily pregnant, who's just going to deliver a baby. So the 3 women who are coming, and they all are coming from the same place, the same location. Who will reach first?
Obviously, the healthy women.
She would reach first, right? And she would reach first if they all are taking the mode of transport and they're reaching. The thing is, equality is saying that everyone has to reach by 9:30. That is equality. Equity is saying that yes, everyone has to reach by 9:30. But if there is a woman on a wheelchair, we understand that the route, though you start from the same place, you end at the same place, but we recognize that the route that you take is different. So we will make a provision for you. We will ensure that there are ramps for you. we will ensure that you get a leeway of 15 minutes to join office. So that is equity. Equality is saying everyone is equal. Equity is saying for the woman who's pregnant, you tell them that, okay, you can join in late, you can work, you can go home late after the traffic, and we will ensure that there's transport for you. So equity is a step above equality. Equality is saying everybody is equal.
Wow. I know. I initially, when I read it, I thought it was by mistake that we had written equity instead of equality. But now I understand equity is above equality. Fantastic. Harish, you've been with Axis Bank. You were appointed as the head of their DE&I. Tell us a little bit more about this role. One, and second is, it's your first corporate job. How are you finding?
I think corporates are very boring. So if I have to say it in my candidness, that's what I would say. But yeah, Axis Bank, the role that I have in Axis Bank is quite sexy. So I'm happy in Axis and the role that I'm listening, but largely I feel that there are too many rules and regulations. I would rather sit in my pajamas and work at home than something. It's a lot of fun, especially the role that I'm doing. So my journey, I never thought of working in a corporate. I was in the social sector. I've been in the social sector forever now. I have worked with agencies that I could wear my Bermudas and go to my ad agency and just crack a few lines over there, and people will say, "Baba, bahut acha bola." And I worked with the non-profit sector, which is again something that was my domain. And because I'm queer, because I was an activist, even at a time when it was not so sexy to be an activist. I spoke about LGBT rights some 20 years before. So at that time, so I have some value over there. But I never thought that I'd join a corporate, except when Axis came I just saw this ad, and I just thought that, okay, chalo try karte hain. And then they did like 4, 5, 6, 7 odd rounds of interviews with me. And I thought they were just trying to better their interview skills. Right from the CEO to everyone was interviewing me. But later, I saw that they were very keenly interested, and they were invested, more than interested. You'll find people who are interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But people who are personally invested, okay, and and I blame you also for this. I mean, the fact that you're so invested in diversity, equity, and inclusion makes you also a person responsible for change over here, and you never know. And I knew that right from Amita to everybody, Amita, who's our CEO, to everyone was very invested in the role, and that's why I chose working over there, and it's been a wonderful run over there.
And then, what's the program that you're running there?
So there are a lot of things that we do. One of the things that we do is we have something called the Pause for Bias session, where we understand that everyone has biases, and it's impossible for us to not have biases. That's what makes us human beings, that we have preferences and we have biases. We like one flat over the other, we like one room over the other, we like one location over the other. So we all have our biases, and we play into those biases. So how can we pause our biases at that moment? And it takes 90 seconds for a reaction to turn to a response. How you can pause and reflect so that doesn't become an inhibiting factor, but it becomes an empowering factor for you. So we need biases when it comes to taking critical decisions, right? When you take the right decisions in favor of equity, you require those biases. You can't say that you can't say a person with disability and an able-bodied person is going to have the same values, same this thing. You have to do something more. You need biases. So those are positive biases that we need. But so that's one thing that we do. The other thing that we do is we run a program called Access Women in Motion, where we go to different schools and colleges and we speak to them regularly about why women should continue being counted as economic entities, why they should have purchasing decisions on themselves, And what we do is we simply go, we have a small presentation on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We do that, and it's not a bhashan, wala presentation, more interactive one, like we ask them about cricket and various things and try to gauge. Like we ask them, one question that we ask all of them is, who is the first cricketer to score a double century in one day international? Who is it? Who's the first cricketer to score a double century in one day international? Sehwag. Who else? Sachin Tendulkar. एक क्या शी भी नहीं होता है कौन है बताओ बंदा तो एक्टर है बंदा
Harish, sorry, I'm interrupting. Can you hold the mic closer to you? Your voice is coming muffled on on Zoom. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So it is Melinda Clark. Okay, so many times, but Melinda Clark achieved the feat 13 years before Sachin Tendulkar did. But Sachin Tendulkar is not. Sachin Tendulkar was never called the main Melinda Clark, right? But Mithali Raj has been referred to as the male Sachin Tendulkar. Because ideally Sachin Tendulkar should be the male Melinda Clark because she achieved what he achieved 13 years before. So things like that. So
but that is true, and that's a pure bias.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the incident that you're narrating is a pure bias. The way you're saying is refer it to as Sachin, than the person who actually achieved it.
Yeah.
So that's what you're trying to
That's one thing, and we also recently have come up with a charter of policies and practices for the LGBTQ community, which is called Come As You Are, where same-sex partners can walk into a bank with their hands on each other, holding each other, and they could say, we are a couple, please open a bank account for us together. So yeah, so that's
nice, very nice. And Harish, in real estate, we find, this is globally, Harish, not only in India, that it is very male-dominated asset class. Even more than what you find in the bank. Even what you'll find in an insurance company or a technology company, you'll find a lot more diversity. In the real estate sector, it is purely a male dominated. What do you think should be done to be able to bring in more diversity? And then I'll come a little bit more personally to Anurag.
I think very, very good question, Anuj. But I think the first and foremost thing is to recognize that there are buyers and purchase decisions which are driven by women. So once we recognize that, we like a simple thing of like I have been shifting homes. I live in a rented house, so I've been shifting homes regularly. The person who decides in the house where we would be going would be my mother. Okay. And the needs are going to be very, very different when it comes to the women wanting things in the house. They would want the kitchen to be a certain way. They would want the bathroom to look a certain way. Whereas the man would say, oh, bada front room must have balcony must have. So I know I'm stereotyping when I'm saying this. Okay, all stereotypes, including this one, is wrong. But if you look at the majority when it comes to the Indian decision maker, many a times, even when I'm buying an insurance or opening a bank account, most of the times it's the convenience of the man that is taken into consideration, but it's more often the woman who makes that decision. So first and foremost, recognize that your clientele, you might have men in the foreground, but there are women in the background.
Very true.
And that's something, the moment we start recognizing that, probably our purchase decisions would also get influenced.
And Harish, do you think is that we should be able to say is that this entire building complex is for women or for LGBTQ? It'll attract more interest from people, or not really?
Everyone. Ideally, in an ideal world, we shouldn't be putting things like this. But we don't live in an ideal world. Our world is not so ideal. Our people Sometimes you have to say that in black and white, tell people. That's why we have in Axis Bank also we have a come as you are policy where in every job profile we have started putting over there come as you are. Women, LGBTQ and PWD candidates of all ages are encouraged to apply. So the moment you put that, so the assumption is that you see them, which no other brand does, that you understand them, you see them, and you recognize them. And when you're recognizing the niches, then the understanding is that you will stand up for the masses also. So when you stand up for the niches, you stand up for the masses. That's the assumption. That's the assumption that in human psychology, anyone delving deep in human psychology would understand. That when you're doing it for this audience, you're putting up a ramp in your building for how many people must be there who would be using the ramp? 3 people, 4 people, and in a building of say 1,000 people. But for them, you're doing something, so automatically you'll be doing for other people also. That's the assumption.
And I agree. The balance 997 would look at you as an organization who's very caring for everyone, not only for those 3 people. And that's what you're really saying is. Advice to people who want to come out of the closet, but have a lot of pressure and apprehension and don't want to come out. What would be that advice?
I think the onus of inclusion lies on those who are included, not on those who are excluded. So the one who's outside doesn't have to work really hard to be counted. So if I'm addressing this audience, I know that there are queer people in this audience. You might not, but the onus of you coming out and saying that you're queer is not on you. It's on analog. We have to assume the responsibility of ensuring that we are a safe place. We are putting pride flags everywhere. We are putting wheelchairs everywhere. Not waiting for a person to come and say that I need a wheelchair. You tell them that there is a wheelchair. Put a wheelchair right at the entrance and say if you need that, it's over there. Don't assume. So we have made the assumption that we don't have queer people. But in any population, you go to Antarctica, you'll find a gay Eskimo over there. In any population, you'll find queer people. It's impossible that there are no queer people. It's only that the organization has not stood up and not become so relevant that they find it comfortable to come and say that I'm queer. There are queer people. So even in Axis Bank, they say that, oh, we have found 5 queer people over there, so 5 will come out. We have yet not reached them. Right? So there are more people who exist. And closets are dark, dingy places. And in the year, I think around 10 years before, there was a World Bank survey that was done. And it said India loses 1.1% of its GDP to homophobia. Like if I was to come to work, being bothered about the salwar kameez that I'm wearing right now, and bothered about whether somebody is going to look at me and judge me, how do you expect me to sit and work? It's impossible that I can work. So my man hours would go, or rather my employee hours will go waste. My everything else that I'm doing, my creativity will not come out in the open. So the more open the organization is, the more open I will be to bring my whole self to work. So the onus of inclusion is always on being included.
Beautiful, Harish. What is that external advice that you give to corporates like us? We have onboarded today our first champion on LGBTQ, who has agreed to become the champion for this cause. So we're very delighted today that we have onboarded. But what is the advice to corporates like us? What should we do to encourage people?
Be intentional. I mean, there are many things, Anuj, that you'll read, that you'll have. You hear of many corporates also who come and say things. If you say something, be that thing, and be intentional about it. Pride cannot be celebrated in the closets. So if you are proud about your diversity, be out there. change your logo month in the month, not in the month of, not just in the month of June or the month of September, but change your logo just like that to celebrate the birthday of your champion. Say that today, for celebrating the birthday of this person who is working with us, we are changing our logo. For one person, you're changing your logo into bright colors. Do that and be intentional about it, be vocal about it, and be local about it. Because LGBTQ people, persons with disability, exist in every locality, not just the central office, not just in BKC. They exist everywhere. Be vocal and be local. Be in every location. See that it percolates down everywhere.
I am just, amazed by the kind of knowledge. I mean, you don't look like a first-time corporate guy, huh? You look like somebody.
I still find corporates very boring.
I have a number of other questions, but I'm going to just pause to sort of open it up for anyone who wants to ask a question from the audience that we've across 100 plus sites. So I'll just give a few seconds. If somebody wants to ask a question, please do. Otherwise, I'll then carry on interviewing. I don't want to, utilize all the time. It's very precious time that we have.
I have a question. Hi, Harish, I'm Gagan.
Hi, Gagan.
Hi. I heard you at another forum and you spoke about how Axis Bank hired you. And on the day you joined, you came very proper in a three-piece suit. Can you share that example, please? Because that was very interesting and it gave a very good message.
So I joined Axis and the bank, if I'm working in a bank, then I need to go wearing a suit. Okay, so I got a similar suit.
Let me take it over.
A similar suit, but just that I was more. It was pink in color. Okay, because I had to add some element of queerness to the whole thing. Thank God. when does the rest go off? So I spent like a week's time in Axis Bank, and the head HR called me to the room, and she was livid. So her name is Raj Kamal. So she was livid, and she looked at me, and she's like, "What is this? Why you dress like this? Why you stoop? Why is your shoulder like this? Why you talking like?" I kept wondering what is she pissed about? Okay, and anyways, my corporate. I never thought that I'll land up in a corporate, and now I'm not so perfect over here. I had all kinds of questions. So I was checking if my fly is open, if my fly open, have I spilled some dal on my coat? She said, and then she called me over and she said, Harish, don't try so hard to fit in. You can stand out, you can be yourself.
Nice.
That was the beauty of it. And then, of course, I had a commitment to my workspace just because I'm close to Raj Kamal and I'm sitting in the central office. That's what I meant by going global. We created a policy where, dress code policy, where every individual who comes to Axis Bank could choose. We had a formal attire that we defined, and you could choose to dress in either of those attires. So then we changed that, and then I went dressed in a salwar kameez. And I did a little shimmy when I went to the office for the first time.
Nice.
I have one more question. May I, unless someone else? Okay, there is a question from Gopal Kulkarni, which Nikita will take, but I have one question. You said your mother takes the decision of where you rent a house. Is it because you, because of how you are, have been refused to be made a tenant? Has someone refused to give you their house?
Very good question. Yes, in many places, many regressive spaces, even in a place like Bombay, there are people who do face challenges, housing challenges, where they've been thrown out of homes, especially if you're a tenant somewhere. I have the privilege because I live with a family. I live with my maternal mother and father. So that is there. But I remember me renting a house with my boyfriend because we both had once decided to go and live together. Now the house is gone and the boyfriend is also gone. But but we had decided to live together when that house was also taken in the name of my mother. And technically,
not given to you.
he would have given it to me, but we didn't want to attract because I could have attracted attention on myself, but my boyfriend was quite chicken about it. So we both became cousins. Okay. So yeah, it was quite an incestuous relationship in that house. But that's one of the reasons, Gagan, but that's not the only reason. Even in heterosexual families, I think most often the decision of what appears outside is the man taking the decision, but what happens inside is women making these decisions.
And particularly, Harish, in our trade, where we're doing a lot of the residential sales, it does appear that the man is the one who's got the purse string, but actually, in all honesty, it is the woman.
You said it right. You said purse strings.
That's right. Yes.
May I ask a question, Harish? It's Rohin here. Very nice to meet you. I'm based in London.
Rohin. Yeah, go ahead, Rohin.
Just a very quick question, if I may. So one of the things that we've observed is Gen Z, this sort of 18 to 30-year-old group of people taking a very open, practical, vocal approach to the world. Do you think things are going to change because of them seeing everyone equal? I've noticed this over the last few years, that they just see everyone exactly the same, black or white, tall or short, any other persuasion, everyone is viewed the same. And I just wanted to ask if you think things are going to change because of their attitude.
Yes, a lot. What Rohit was asking was about the Gen Z attitude. I mean, are things changing because of that? I think every new generation ushers in a new set of rules, a new set of ways of looking at things. They get a new prism through which you see the rainbow. So I think the Gen Z per se are more vocal. They are more demanding, and they're more aware. Like for instance, I didn't know, even as an LGBTQ person, I didn't know what the alphabet Samba stood for. I didn't know many of those alphabets. I didn't know what polyamorous was, what polysexual was. I didn't know all these words myself, even as an LGBTQ person. So it is the Gen Z which is coming, and then you suddenly have so many categories that it could fit in, and you could fit into 2 boxes or 3 boxes as well at the same time. And I think it's both good and it's too bad because they are the market checkers also. So you could completely get vandalized on social media if you do one wrong thing. So it makes more sense. So I was just telling Anuj in our conversation before, just take one property and call it the rainbow property and say it's welcoming for LGBTQ people. Put it out that we encourage LGBTQ people, we give you like 1% discount if you come out openly and say that you are from LGBTQ, and just see the effect, because automatically it's assumed that when you stand up for one marginalized group, it's assumed that everyone else is going to be an environment which is equitable for everyone. Okay, or do something. Let's not even go to LGBTQ. Start a dog park. Say that this place is going to be friendly for people with animals. Just do that this thing, and it will be interesting, because so many things you need to keep in consideration, because LGBTQ people don't have children, they have pets. Yeah, you can't adopt children, and most of us have got cats or dogs. Right? The small things like these it's not just you saying so, but you'll have to ensure that 4-5 of these things that LGBTQ people must be having would be taken care of in that place, and automatically everyone else fits into the same bracket.
And Harish, it is true that the millennials are the guys who will be taking the decisions going forward. I guess they're the ones who are going to be the consumers of tomorrow.
Yes.
If they, and Rohin's point is that they look at everybody, with the same prism, and if you are able to stand out and convert all these sections as same, from their point of view, it really enhances their level of comfort.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I told you the niches appeal to the masses. So you create a niche for yourself, and that will appeal to the masses.
I think we let you come there because the rest of the guys on the Zoom will not be able to hear you otherwise.
So there are two questions. One is from Sudeep, who's our HR head. When did you realize that you don't?
Can't hear you, Nikita. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Agan?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll repeat the question. When did you gender?
Lost you again. When did you realize? After that, we lost you.
Okay. When did you realize that you don't want gender? And the second question is, why this particular dress code? I mean, how did you come up with this particular dress code? Okay.
I'll take the second question first. I just think I look sexy. When I wear a salwar kabhi, sexier. Okay. But it takes a lot of, I would have rather come in a sari, which I think is the sexiest garment. But it just takes a lot of effort to dress up in a sari. So kudos to everyone who dresses up in a sari. So I realized my sexuality. I had 3 phases in my life. I had 3 coming outs in my life. My first coming out was I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse. I was raped when I was 7 years of age, and I spoke about it quite candidly on national television when I was 18. So that was my first coming out, and that time it was unheard of that boys could come out and say that they were sexually assaulted. So I was raped at 7, was gang raped when I was 11 or 12, and I've spoken at Satyamay Jayate, and Axis Bank was one of the sponsors there. I never thought that I landed in Axis Bank. So that was my first coming out, and then when I was around 24, 25, is when I came out as a gay man. When I realized that I like men, and I learned that by elimination. I had a girlfriend. Nothing. I mean, we used to go to 5 gardens, hold each other's hands, look into each other's eyes. I used to take my lips close to her ears and say those beautiful words that every woman would love to hear. Not really. "Wo ladka kitna hot hai na?" So I used to sit with the girl and eye all the boys over there with her. So that was my second coming out, and my third coming out was about my gender, which I realized only 2 years before, where I thought that okay, this is a box that I should into. I'm gender fluid. I love being called a man. I love being called. If somebody calls me a woman, I don't think it's a step below me. I think I'm pretty okay. If somebody says कि वो आई थी यहाँ पे वो बात करके गई, it's okay if you refer to me in feminine gender. I feel very good about it. Not better than what I feel when somebody refers to me in a masculine gender. So I dress up the way I wish, like dressing up on that day. As long as I am true to my soul, I have nothing to prove to anybody else.
And Harish, it's very interesting what you're saying is, today it is a lot more acceptable. When we were growing up, many years ago, when you came out openly, would have been a very different environment. Would have been a very tough environment. And, today there is a lot more education and there's a lot more awareness. But at that time, I'm not sure.
There was hardly anything. In fact, literally, like they show in films, they used to, when the college had started a slander campaign against me, I had tried taking my life 3 times. When there was a slander campaign in college, and I didn't even know if I was gay. But people assume that because it was made by a man and that got leaked, that I must have enjoyed it. So, so it was quite tough. People literally used to shut their doors on me, and that's why I keep out of all the windows, and I hoist my flag everywhere, because I know that there are people on whom doors are shut, and that's why we need to peep out of every window and have a rainbow flag flagging over there.
Nice.
There is one more question. There's one more question from Shruti. Shruti, do you want to ask the question? You can unmute yourself and ask.
Oh, absolutely. Harish, first of all, it's a pleasure and an honor, sir. Really glad to have you over. One of the questions I had as an organization, since I'm a part of HR team, is how can we, A, as an organization, and B, as individuals working in ANARO, make ourselves more obviously open to LGBTQ members? Research says almost 10% of the population is LGBTQ. I'm sure there are people here who are of the same community. We would want, through this medium, we would like to say that it's a very safe and welcoming place for them to come out. But what are the steps we can take or should take?
I had a little bit of rainbow over here. It's so boring. To do, which has not started in Axis also, but we should add a little more rainbow over there also. Be more vocal about it. Say that you are LGBTQ friendly. If you are not in a condescending way, use the verbiage a little carefully, but say that we encourage LGBTQ people to do this thing. Start conversations about LGBTQ. Have a queer film festival. If you show 4 films, if you have a film festival over here and you show 4 films which are heterosexual films, because no one gave a thought about like Dil Wale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, no one thought of it as a heterosexual film, right? Because you never gave it a thought. Maine Pyar Kiya is a heterosexual film. Okay, Naya Daur is a heterosexual film. So tell me what are the gay films you can actually count in your fingers, right? So have these films also sandwiched. I mean, start the conversation. Like simple things, like I'll point out on something that you did right now. You kept saying guys. If I was to refer to everyone as girls, hello girls, how are you? How will the guys feel? But the girls are assumed to understand that they will be called guys and they will be okay about it. Right? So can we start our conversations with hello people, right? Hello friends, hello family, right? So simple things like that. Many a times when we assume, like when you do a case study, you say a customer had come, the customer did this, the customer did that, he went to the shop, he went this thing, he did that thing, he did this thing. How many times would you say he? Intentionally start saying she or start saying they. You know, they is a preferable term, but for us to reach they, at least go to she from he. You know, start saying she. So being mindful about language becomes the first step towards opening your minds for LGBTQ people. So I'll like to share a small thing. I've been to America, and when I've been to the States, there was this discussion that was happening where we had one trans person जिसको देख के समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि उसका gender pronouns क्या होगा. So for that one person, all of us wore a badge which said Harish Iyer, bracket he she, yeah, bracket he him. So that one person doesn't feel left out, that you're not making an exception or going and asking that one person, right? If she was dressed in a pantsuit, okay, if somebody was dressed in a pantsuit, and you do not know whether that person is a he or she, then everyone else will have to wear the badge. So that one person is wearing that badge will not feel awkward wearing the badge, right? So simple things like gender pronouns, to create that conducive environment. By saying we are LGBTQ friendly, we don't become LGBTQ friendly. Change our policies, upgrade our policies. Sometimes all our policies just need one small change, where you just need to say things like, wherever you have he hyphen she, just make it they. That's all that you need to do. Control F, remove all he, she, and make it they. Simple things. I mean, it's not very complex.
I've just got one question continuing with that, Harish. We find a lot of the guys in the evening will go out for a drink, will go out for a beer. There are sort of sutta breaks. There are a few women as well in that, but majority of them are really guys, and that's where they, really bond, over a drink late in the evening, or in that sutta break. So what is it that the girls need to do to get more inclusive, to get more closer, to that group?
Nothing. The guys need to do. Okay, you are the majority. The onus is on the guys. Okay, and that's why most decisions happen on the pot, whichever pot you would assume. Okay, so whether it's a sutta break or whether it is रात को जाएंगे बियर मारेंगे बियर शेयर मारेंगे और डिस्कस करेंगे and we don't even realize that we are not being exclusionary, we are just bonding with our friends, okay, and those friends happen to be all men, so in the end you end up being exclusionary without you realizing so if you are just mindful of these things, okay, that doesn't mean all women have to start drinking and start having sutta so that they feel counted. The onus of inclusion lies on those who are included. So it's a responsibility on the boys. I know it's tough. And this is not some feminism means equality of all genders. Hating men is not feminism, it's misandry. Okay? So feminism means equality of all genders. So come to a point, and equality will happen only if there is equity. And the fact that there are more men over here than women, 50-50. Nothing less than that is equality. Anyone saying that we have reached 41% women, too bad. Why is it a ulta? Would it be okay if it was 59% men, 49% women? Then you say, wo to mahila andolan chadate hain, right? But it will never become a male bastion if it's like 59% men. The only way that equality happens is when you have 50-50. Till then, we have not reached that. Access band is not reached, and we never want to assume that we have reached the point of equality because we want to keep working. There should be something of aspiration that is difficult to reach. It should be like summiting the Mount Everest. No one has reached there, but everyone is trying to reach there. So we want to keep trying, and that's what I would say for Anurag and everyone else.
Gagan, we've got a big task in front of us.
Yes. Can I, Nikita, are there any other questions? Otherwise, I have a question.
There's one more question, Gagan.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'll ask the last question then this time.
Slightly personal. I don't know if you want to answer.
There's nothing not personal in my life.
So the question is, would you?
Nikita, we can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Nikita, just try leave the mic and come closer to the machine, because when Anuj was speaking without the mic, he was very clear near the machine. Just lose the mic. Yes.
Okay, so the question to you is whether this is the question from one of our colleagues.
No, we couldn't hear it. Sorry, we couldn't hear the question. It vanishes.
Whether there was love and there was love back.
Yeah, I think you summarized.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think I have had, to be very honest, I think I've had more love to give than to accept in my life. I've been very, if you just go to my Facebook, you'll see me writing poems and going all Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi with all my lovers. But that's not really been the case when it came to being loved back. But I think it's also because I'm a very intense person. I either drown in things or I don't wet my feet at all. I think that's the thing. Either I'm totally into something or I'm not into it at all. So yeah, it gets too overwhelming for my lovers also. Here he doesn't talk about anything when it comes to love. I'll be singing. I remember one of my boyfriends was waiting for me at a pub, and I had to go over there, and I was late, so I had to make up for being late. So I sent him like 15 poems. so he was like, "What is this? How many poems will you write? It should have some value. If you send me one poem a month, I'll at least treasure it. You write me 15 poems, where do I save it? You know, so I'm an over lover."
Sorry, we've got a question from Rachel. Go ahead, Rachel.
We were just now talking. We were talking about feminism and gender equality. As a woman, when there is general conversation happening and people bring up things that sound anti-feminist, and you point that out that no, that's not right. You're termed or labeled as feminist, and I am not a feminist. How do you put across, like correct somebody being, just probably they don't mean it, but how do you educate them or bring it to their consciousness without getting termed as feminist yourself?
Do you stand for equality?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you are a feminist. Feminism means equality. That's the definition of feminism, which has got over the years, the impression that feminism is something like something that needs to be dreaded, like क्रांतिकारी औरत बाहर जाएगी, ऐसे शेरनी बनेगी. It was in fact there used to be this feminist brand of politics where women were burning their bras as a part of their feminist thing, this thing. That's one form of feminism, but feminism is anyone who stands up for equality. If you say that you're not a feminist, means you are a misogynist. Are you a misogynist? No. Are you a misandrist? No. Then you're a feminist. Misandrist means hating men.
No, I love men.
Misogynist means hating women. You're neither, right? So you're a feminist. So anyone who is not a feminist is either a misandrist or a misogynist. You don't stand for equality. That's the definition of feminism. But over the years, that definition has got diluted and polluted, where people have said कि यार मैं feminist नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि feminist मतलब बाहर जाके लड़ाई करने वाली है. So you are basically saying that I'm calm, and brash and out there. So feminism is also calm and staying and believing in principles of equality and standing true to it in your own way. So you are a feminist. You might not like the term because you are associating it with something.
That's right. I think that is what it is. I think we were sort of misinformed. I mean, I got educated. I also thought feminist was a derogatory word.
I wouldn't say derogatory, but people always assume that when you say when they label you or opinions or standing up for women's rights, then I think
So it is the definition has got diluted. But the real thing is standing up for other people wrong? No. Is standing up for yourself wrong? No. But the way it stood up for, because many times feminism is seen as misandry. If you're a feminist, means you hate men. That is, if somebody hates men, they are not feminists. Okay, that's not the definition of feminism. Feminism means standing up for everything. Even within organizations, I hear, said, we don't want this to look like a feminist agenda. I say everything is a feminist agenda. You stand up for equality, it's a feminist agenda. And it's not called a manist agenda, kyun nahi bulaya? Equalist agenda, kyun nahi bulaya? Feminist, because feminism is equalist agenda only. So and why did they say if men were discredited and disillusioned and treated badly, probably it will be called a manist agenda also. Probably in Russia. Feminism nahi hona chahiye, manism hona chahiye, because there are more women over there. Okay, so things like that.
Yeah.
Just got a few minutes left. If I can ask one question and then maybe you can ask the last question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So Harish, you love pets. I love pets. And you said that dogs and cats. I've got both dogs and cats. Which one do you love better? Dogs, cats? What do you think of the two?
I have a pussy and it's a cat. I think I love cats more than dogs, but I dare not say that in front of my dog and cat because I think they understand my language.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks. Harish, just so that you hear and everyone else can hear, we made our policies gender neutral 2 years ago. Our policies have no he or she. They only use the word they. So we've been getting ready for over 2 years now and talking about being open to, welcoming and embracing disability and LGBT. But it's a very tough journey in terms of, making headway. And we've realized that through all our trial and error, finally we've, achieved some success and ticked a box at least, but we've got a journey ahead. But I have to share with you a reality. You said that if you take care of the niches, the masses will feel comfortable. That's not my experience, Harish. When we say we are protecting the niches, the masses say, oh, this is discrimination against us. That means you're discriminating against men now. Why is this so much for the women? Why can't you take care of the men? It's more for the gender than anything else. Because we focus so much, because we started at 6%, we are now at 25%, that we focus so much that it's treated by the masses as discrimination against them. How do we tackle this? This is a very repeated argument or the point that comes up.
Very good question. And Gagan, you're right. You're right that there is going to be conflict is good. First of all, to have conflict means there is also a chance of resolution. So for us to create any mark, that's the first thing that I would like to tell you, is that to create any kind of mark anywhere in the world, conflicts lead to resolutions and conflict lead to more simplified processes. Yes, when you focus on the niches, and it needs to be done diligently. If I'm going to suddenly make it look like it is going to be, so that's why sensitization becomes equally important as much as changing policies. Like if you want to say that you're going to hire only women, okay? Instead of saying that you hire only women, can you just go to women's colleges and hire people if you are getting campus placements, okay? Or obviously there you will get more. Obviously you will get only women over there, okay? So if there was another thing of you doing, you celebrating Women's Day, also celebrate Men's Day. There's nothing wrong in celebrating Men's Day, but you celebrate the spirit of men being emotional during Men's Day. Instead of men being the macho, the breadwinner, saying that today we are going to give the men some rest. Okay? So it's important to balance out even when we do these things, do these drives. If we do a blanket drive and we simply say that we are going to, and that's why doing anything on the 8th of March or doing it on the 6th of September for LGBT rights or in the month of June for LGBT might not get as many eyeballs because that time you know that you're just capturing them for that moment and you're capitalizing on them and you're discriminating everyone else. But that's why the education about equity is important. That so many years LGBT people never had the opportunity. So many years PWD people never had ramps and they were never invited to workplaces. Even now, if I was to tell you that tomorrow a person with blindness wants to come and join, you'll be first thinking, how will a person with blindness handle a laptop? How will a person with blindness sit on a laptop? How will the person with blindness, how will she pick up the phone and speak to people? Does she know how to dial? She's living her life. So she obviously knows all these things. But that assumption would always be made, and so many years there is that. And yes, there will be voices which will stand against us, and we need to sustain those. And that's why it's called the brave step. If that was not brave, if everyone was going to accept it, why is what Axis doing brave, or why is anyone, what Analog does is brave? Why is anyone doing, why is that termed as brave at all? It's termed as brave because there will be opposition. And opposition is good because then you have the chance to speak to them about equity, not about equality, but about equity on how many years. Look at our target audience and see that we have just 26%, we are just 23% of women. If it was so equal, why aren't there 50% women? Okay, so it's good to actually have these conflicts. It will not lead to resolutions every time. It will leave people disillusioned at times, but it's okay. Women have been disillusioned. LGBT people have been disillusioned for centuries. थोड़ा दुख अगर men को होता है तो ठीक है, होने दो.
I think one last question from Ashwini.
It's been a pleasure. Can you hear me, Gagan?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Very quickly, we are all parents to children ranging from. Yeah. Can you hear me, Gagan, now?
Yeah.
So, what do you think? How should we converse on this with children? Because that's where, and schools really aren't doing too much.
I think it's a very good.
But we are all parents, and I'm sure the community, the students that our children have, also there would be people, right? So how do we converse? How do we sensitize without really making a big deal about it, right?
Very, very good.
Very good. Yeah.
First of all, don't assume your child's gender. Okay? When the child is born, understand, I don't know if all of us understand the difference between sex, gender, and sexuality. So let me start with that. When a child is born, the nurse goes to the father or any other person who is not given birth and says, Mubarak ho, ladka hua hai. What did the nurse see to say ladka hua hai? What did the nurse see?
The reproductive.
What did the nurse see? Say it.
The penis.
The penis, right? Can you answer penis? Penis, okay? The nurse saw the penis and she said, ladka hua hai. If the nurse said, ki Mubarak ho, ladki hui hai, what did the nurse see? What did the nurse see? Vagina, right? So if the nurse, so this is sex. What I call myself is gender, right? What the word assumes is gender. Gender is a social construct. And I know the corporate parlance, we don't speak about penis and vagina. So, but it's just a part of our body, that's our eye or nose. And this doesn't fall under posh until you use it in a way that it's derogatory to or making sexual advance. It's science, right? So this is gender, sex, and gender is what I call myself. So I was born with a penis, but I call myself a woman. So I'm transgender, I'm a trans woman. I was born with a vagina, but I call myself, I'm saying that I am a man. So I'm a trans man, right? So sex are many. So sex could be male, female, and intersex. Intersex are people who are born with analogous, born with a penis, sometimes a penis and a vagina, and there's some 18 different forms of intersex people. Okay, so that is male, female, intersex. Gender is man, woman, trans man, trans woman, gender fluid, gender non-conforming. You don't want to conform to any gender. So what I call myself is gender, right? So, and then sexuality is who I fall in love with. Now, do not assume your child's gender till the child says my gender is so. The child will be born with a penis, but who gives you the right to assume that the child will be wearing a pant and shirt and not a skirt? If the child wants to wear a skirt, you get educated. You get educated so that the child could have the life of their own on deciding what exactly the child wants to wear. If your child is already big, child is already this thing, and you have brought the child on a certain prototype of gender, understand, educate yourself that the child's gender can emerge at any point. The child can say that Mom, I have been wearing a skirt all my life, but I'm a man. So you educate yourself. Don't put the responsibility on the child. And if you can't do that, and if you're planning to have children, don't have children. To bring up a child, especially in this world where people are aware, and to give the child your perceived gender that you perceive, and you cannot pick up the fight with the word for your child, don't have children. You have to pick up dogs and cats, and that to adopt them, don't buy them. Right? I would seriously don't have children. So the whole perceived gender, do not force gender, understand that, there is this Marathi, there is this, I forget this thing, शिवाजी पैदा होना चाहिए मगर राजू के घर में पैदा होना चाहिए मेरे घर पे नहीं right शिवाजी जन्म घ्यायचं आणि शेजाऱ्याच्या घरी some and my Marathi is horrible so if you champion LGBT rights, assume that it could be your child who could be LGBTQ also, not just your neighbor's child, and their gender, their sexuality could emerge at any point. I realized my gender, my sexuality, I came out when I was 24. My gender, I came out when I was like 40. So it can happen at any point of your life. So all your children, if there are queer people in this office, there are queer people who are our children and our nieces and our nephews. Our nieces and nephews are not nieces and nephews. Our niece could be our nephew and our nephew could be our niece. Remember that.
Anuj, there's one question from Manoti. Manoti, you can unmute and speak. Just one question. Last one from Manoti in Gurgaon. Manoti, please ask.
Hello. Hi, Harish. So this question actually relates to the question that you mentioned about the niches. So with regards to universal access and being inclusive with all the different sections of the society, just wanted to know your thoughts on normalizing it by not highlighting it in a different way, along with advocating equality, basically running two parallel paths, which could be inclusive, of course, of the niches as well as the masses. So just wanted to know what are your thoughts on that, Harish?
I think a rising tide lifts all boats, and a rising and a rousing equity index when it comes to gender equity index lifts all boats. And it takes several small tides to make one big tide. That's something that we need to understand. So yes, the niches, you cannot completely neglect the masses when you are catering to the niches. So there will be times when you're focusing on, say, a particular topic. So you're focusing on, say LGBTQ, right? But when you're focusing on LGBTQ, like I'll give you a small example. Like we recently had an LGBTQ drive. It was the National Coming Out Day on the 12th of this month. So we had an LGBTQ drive, and we advertised it as LGBTQ drive, and we said that women, LGBTQ, PWD people from all ages are encouraged to apply. And we said LGBTQ people can come. And then I got a call from the security desk of one of my offices. They said, sir, आपने तो बोला LGBT drive है. बोला हाँ, LGBT drive है. तो यहाँ पे तो एक आदमी आया. So I was like, हाँ, मगर आपने तो बोला LGBTQ है. I said, मैं कौन हूँ? I said, आप नहीं. I said, हाँ, मैं LGBTQ हूँ. ये सुना होगा, कहीं से तो gossip सुना होगा. बोला हाँ, तो मैं हो सकता हूँ, वो क्यों नहीं हो सकता? So the whole thing is, we assume that the niches are not accommodating of the masses. So even when you focus on a niche, even when you are focusing on LGBTQ, you are not taking away the focus on men, right? So that there are a lot of people exist in the intersections also. So sometimes focusing, that was my big lesson, that I didn't have to do training for people who are English speaking and all like me. What I needed to do training with is people who get stopped at the door, the security person, right? So many a times when we focus on niches, it's also important to focus on masses and educate masses, and that's why equity becomes important. Education about equity, telling people that why we are focusing on this If you just start focusing without telling people that, we are focusing on this because this is the index, this is the percentage that is there, because there is being bias, because there is no person who's catering. Explain and then conduct. Okay. Sometimes, and will there be some backlashes? There will be brickbats. There will be backlashes. That's why it becomes courageous. No, take those backlashes. It's all right. कितना कम होगा तुम अगर, even if you lose a bit of market share in the beginning, you will gain much more in the reckoning later. When you'll be a force to reckon with, the first to do something, and that brand value that is created cannot be taken by somebody else. So sometimes, yes, there will be challenges. It's not going to be an easy affair. It's not easy in access either. It's not that we are perfect and everyone that from tomorrow. Why do we have POSH as a policy? Technically, if we put POSH as a policy, no woman should get harassed, right? It doesn't happen magically like that. You will have to keep at it. Equity is hard work and it's a regular work. It's not just a policy, it's a practice. Equity is a practice, it's not just a policy.
Oh, this is fascinating, Harish, and we can go on and on and on. I'm just fascinated, trying to absorb everything that you're saying. So many new things. My mind was working like 180 miles an hour to try and absorb everything that you're saying. I think it is a new subject for all of us. It is a subject which we're not really accustomed, and we're delighted that you started that conversation within Amarok. It is also a subject that maybe a little bit out of comfort zone of many people, and you coming in there, we talking openly about it. It will become a feature where people are going to be very comfortable. Also, sitting on these chairs usually are people who are giving us a lot of gyan on real estate. And we are so delighted there we have someone who's giving gyan on life, which is for real, that this is going to be here. This has been amongst the most fascinating interviews that I've had in the last 25, 30 years. So thank you very much for coming in. A big round of applause for Harish, guys.
Thank you, understanding. It's so important to be humane, and it is not the ranks you climb, but the levels you go inside that matters. And thank you for being humane and to not have this hierarchical structure. I'm bored of hierarchies.
When you work in a corporate.
Yes, that's why I find corporates boring.
Thank you so much, Harish. Thank you.
Thank you. And we got a small token for you, Harish, from Nikita.
Thank you so much. I think the best thing that you can give anybody is a life. And thank you for this.
Thank you.